Hey guys! Um, it has been a very long time coming, but I wanted to do a quick book review for Valentine's Day. And in the spirit of Valentine's Day, today we're going to cover Nina Bangs. Quick story about how I found this book. I was at a very, very bad open mic night, which was an experience in and of itself. And then I found this in a box for free. Like books that they were like literally giving away. So this is like the tier that we're at. Like this is where we're beginning, is a free giveaway book called Nina Bangs. If you look at it, it's like destroyed. Like I found it like on a rainy night in a box destroyed. And if you look over here, like it was being sold for $2 right here. So it's definitely top tier literature. I don't know how hard it is to get your hands on a copy of this. I do want to read you a little bit about our author. I think she's like adorable. I went through this book. Here is our author. This is our lovable Nina. And I'm gonna read you her bio. Texas is my permanent home. I've come full circle. Born in San Antonio, I spent most of my life in New Jersey. Maybe the Texas in my blood accounts for my attachment to strong men, fast horses, and wide open spaces. My love of cats? Haven't a clue. My one regret in life? I wish I'd started writing sooner. And then she gives her like P.O. box. She's really cute. I really like her. So usually when I do book reviews for you guys, it's not really a book review. I just talk about the points that I liked. And we're going to do something similar, but this time I have actually, I wrote down in the back of the book, because I love it so much, a little breakdown of plot points that I enjoyed. And we're gonna start by, I think, doing a breakdown of the characters. I don't, like any book review I do, I don't really want to give away the plot, because what's the point of reading a book if you aren't going to, read it for the story. So we're going to go through the characters instead, and hopefully it doesn't give away too much, because I feel like this book is really defined by the characters. So we got Donna and Eric. There are two main protagonists. One is a vampire and one is a talk show host that only does shows at night. Donna is a talk show host. Eric is, of course, the vampire. We have Sparkle Stardust, which is only defined as a cosmic troublemaker, and maybe one of my favorite characters. She's just like a hot mess. Very juvenile. They have Isma. I don't know what exactly she does. She's the messenger of the goddess Isis. Basically, Sparkle Stardust and Isma spend most of this book trying to get Donna and Eric to bang. That's really their only function. They're funny about it, and they're really interesting characters, but they don't have a lot of depth. You have Bryn, Colin, and there's another dude there. At least I thought there was. You have Bryn and Colin. They're both Eric's friends. Bryn is a sex demon. So if he spends for like more than an hour with a woman, he has to ask her to have sex with him, and it's really funny. He was explaining that he's deliberately sleazy about it. So he'll like get all like up in your face and like do like a shirt like a shirt pull off, and like I picture like a capoeira dance when he's like trying to ask you to have sex. It's pretty great. Then you have Connell, and he's just like a 1,000-year-old knight that got cursed at some point. You have Torin. He's another vampire. He's an antagonist. He's trying to avenge his brother. This is all like basic, I feel like, vampire meets girl and like plot has to ensue stuff. You have Jessica and Sweetie Pie, and they are plants, and they have no personalities. The only function they have is to perk up when people have sex in their presence. They live on good sex vibes. You have Holgarth. He's a wizard, and his whole thing is that he's a snarky wizard, I guess. He like has a bad, like, he just talks shit. It's like a sassy, snarky wizard. Oh, there's one more character, and I like made it a point to go through this book and like get everyone's names, but I forgot one character. It's Sparkle Stardust's henchman, and his whole thing is that he doesn't know anything about sex, but he works for like a woman who specializes in sex and is a cosmic troublemaker. The only reason I didn't get his name for you is because he disappears halfway through the book. Like this character is introduced and like sort of given a basic background just so you know who he is, and then they just drop him like that. He's mentioned like towards the end, but like he doesn't really do anything. Okay. I'm gonna skip over the plot. I'll give you like a basic. I will give you a basic rundown of the plot. The plot is girl meets vampire. They don't like each other, and then they do like each other. They bang. Shenanigans ensue with the antagonist, and then they end up together. It's a pretty run of the mill story. There's nothing super like novel here. There's some setups and payoffs. They're all really small, but it's nice that she even bothered. Um, Donna has a pirate fantasy that's mentioned in the beginning of the book, and they pay it off at the end and do like a little pirate fantasy scene with her and her male protagonist Eric. Uh, they really push a chocolate covered cherry angle. In fact, there's food is like a big part of this um, whole book. Really like sex and candy and just like chocolate and food. It's like a really interesting way to sort of sprinkle it in, and it was nice to like have that like consistent thread of like candy throughout the whole thing. It's the one thing that the two main characters bond over, and it's pretty nice. Um, Jessica and Sweetie Pie, they kind of droop at the beginning, and then they are lush at the end because the two characters are having sex. And then they have a dragon. I think the dragon piece was like Eric has like a specific little dragon piece that he's had for his whole life, and then he gives her like a dragon necklace at the end of the book. But I've already forgotten a lot of this. I finished reading this book a couple of weeks ago. Been a little slacking on the review. I'm gonna start with some things that I like, and then things that I don't like. Some things that I like are that the characters are really fun. Um, I feel like almost the side characters are better than the main protagonists. Like they have more personality, and I think that's because you're supposed to project yourself onto the main characters. So Eric is just like dark, sexy, brooding vampire, and Donna is just like strong, independent woman who wants to be dominated, and like that could be anyone, like either of them. So I think the idea is that you project yourself in the female role, and then you project whatever man you want into Eric's role. Things that I don't like, and there's way more things that I don't like than things that I do like. Um, the setups and payoffs are superficial. You know this. I read them off to you before. There's like four of them, and they're really small. They don't really do anything to like add to the story. In fact, the pirate fantasy, it actually feels like really like horned in. Like she made it a point to fulfill that, but it was sort of out of place with the story. Um, the plot is simplistic and predictable. It really is. There's nothing new going on here. It's a basic love story slash revenge kind of deal. There's nothing like novel or surprising, and you can kind of more or less predict everything that goes down, which is it is what it is. There are a lot of gender stereotypes, so I wrote down two quotes here. Men are too civilized, which is to say that men in the city, like men who like, I think she said something like men who let her lead sexually are too civilized, and I was almost offended because I was like, we're really in this like period now where sort of like the idea of having your partner be vocal about what your needs are and what their needs are is like a really big deal, and to like read this book and have her say, oh yeah, I want a man to just like get up in there and not ask questions or not like sort of anticipate or like question my needs was like ooh. And then at the end of the book he was like women love jewelry. She was like, oh, you don't need to get me anything, and then he said her eyes lit up in the way that like women do, and I was like, like sometimes when people say they don't want anything, they don't want anything. You just leave it there. You just leave it there. You don't have to be weird about it. But yeah, there's a lot of like more on Eric's part. There's a lot of like gender stereotypes, like men should be like these masculine sort of like feral presence, and I'm like, not everybody wants that, and I know that for this book it's sort of expected and anticipated, and like this isn't my first rodeo with this sort of genre. um I either did or was going to do a like a wild cats review a while ago, or like a book about like people who turn into leopards, and it was pretty much the same deal. Like, you want somebody who's feral and wild, and while it's not surprising, it is kind of I don't know, it's outdated. So the last thing is emotions are more explained than shown, and I think that's just like a writing thing. I mean, this book isn't supposed to be a high tier book, so I'm not like expecting her to be like narrating things so well that there's a fluidity between like emotion and action. But like in a good book, that's sort of what you look for. There really isn't a lot of that in here. When they come to the revelation that they like each other, they just say it out loud in their minds, and they're like, "Oh my God, when did we start talking in terms of we?" And instead of like sort of little gestures that would indicate that they're now a couple. But that's something that I'm particularly like into. Like, I love demonstration of like physical instead of just like saying. But that's, once again, that's a personal preference. Um, that's about it for Nina Bangs. I wanted to keep this really short. I also wanted to do it because even though this book was sort of generic, it was also really fun to read. I really can't stress enough that even though the characters are basic and sort of one note and lack depth, she went to the trouble of giving them all a note. So like, I know who everyone is, and I kind of like them because even though they're simplistic, they're very fun or likable or funny. And I'm realizing now that this is probably going to be distracting through the whole video, and I promise I'll fix that next time. But if you want to see double me, there you go. Eh, there you go. Huh. Anyway, yeah, this was I don't want to say too many nasty things about Nina Bangs. I actually really not loved it. I wouldn't even say that I was like crazy liked it. I would just say that it's fun for what it is. And now that I've read a few of these books, I can really appreciate that. I am going to do what I've been doing consistently, and I'm going to redo the first page because I think that's what hooked me. Like, it's just so great. It's just a first page. You bring the heat, oh evil one. Sparkle Stardust leaned across the candy counter to get a better view of the men entering her store. And that's bad for business. She relished the shiver of excitement that always preceded the nightly visits of Eric McNair, who foolishly thought she didn't know that he was really Eric Mackenzie. Because something about the centuries-old vampire spoke of dark power that rivaled her own. Secure in her own abilities, Sparkle welcomed the challenge. Winning was so much more satisfying when she pitted her skills against a worthy opponent, and Sparkle was all about winning. Deal with it. He acknowledged his amusement with a slight lift of his lips. Incredible lips. Sparkle was expert on lips. You're a hard man. She paused to consider the many nuances of hard. Every day, as soon as the sun sets, I have to crank up the air at least 10 degrees. She shook her head in mock despair. You steam up my windows so customers can't see the merchandise, and you melt all my chocolate. You should be illegal. A lie. Yummy vampires should never be illegal. He was everything bad should be. Dark, brooding, and cynical, and from their nightly bantering, she knew he didn't think any woman would ever bring him to his knees. Ha! See me laugh. Idly, Sparkle wondered if he'd run screaming into the night if he knew her store owner persona was just a front for who she really was, the matchmaker from hell. So, like, cheesy, fun, silly, sort of just immediately drops you into a candy shop with, like, a cosmic trickster and a vampire. And, like, that sort of whimsy is really fun. It's sort of proposing a ridiculous premise and asking you to sort of just jump into it. And I really respect that in a book. Like, if you're gonna write a ridiculous sex romp, why not have fun with it? And that's it. That's Nina Bangs. I think we covered it pretty well. And I don't know if I'm I think I'm gonna recommend this. If you're into cheesy, ridiculous, silly, nonsensical books, and you are very bored and you have like a day, because this is a day read, and you just want to like turn your brain off, because this is basically what this is. Wicked Nights, Nina Banks is definitely for you. And I'm sorry, I neglected to tell, the title of the book is called Wicked Nights. The author's name is Nina Banks. I cannot stress this enough. This woman, her name, Nina Banks. Love it. Fantastic. All right. That's it for this review. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm going to make these more frequent now I'm back in the swing of it. And, alright, have a good night. Bye.